Good evening and welcome to ZI News, the news network on this channel where we cover channel updates, gaming, science, sci-fi, and more. This is our second Star Trek special. Oh. Before we start, that how to draw an Intrepid video is on its way. I've just got to finish coloring the example so that I can release that to you guys. And you're probably hearing a role play I'm part of an amino community on my phone going off right now. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the article. Star Trek will never die. Son of series creator talks new launch. I've seen a documentary by this guy about his dad's work. It's pretty good. I highly recommend that. If I can find it, I'll probably link you to it in the description. Okay. Star Trek fans will have to wait a little longer for the debut of a new era for the TV series, after the launch date for Star Trek Discovery was pushed back from January to May 2017. We covered an article on that last week. That episode will be linked in the description. Rod Roddenberry, son of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, is one of the executive producers of the new series. Wow! Oh, taking up where his dad left off. Nice. It's very nice. And WTOP caught up with him during his recent visit to the National Air and Space Museum in D.C. He was there to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Star Trek phenomenon on his father birthed. God bless Roddenberry. You right? And you might not be able to hear it still, but I'm still getting notifications from that roleplay because other people involved in it are posting their stuff. If I could, I'd link you to the amino, but it don't work for PCs, so. What I really connect with it is the ideas that he put in it. That idea of a better future. The idea of IDIC. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. As I said, God bless Gene Roddenberry. Or at least rest his soul. Because the future portrayed by Star Trek is beautiful. Well, those of you who are watching this because it's labeled Star Trek can understand that. The appreciation of all things that are different and not really fearing diversity on our planet, embracing it. He says there's a great team of people behind the new series. Now I have heard from a secondary source that the new series pushed back launch date is to do as I suggested, or theorized they were going to do last video, and that was make the ship better. So Brian Fuller is sort of leading the charge on what the show is. He's got a number of credits under his belt, not just with Star Trek, but a number of other series. He's a huge Star Trek fan, Roddenberry said. And he's not just a Hollywood writer, he is a devoted fan of the show who gets the philosophy and is a fan of my father's philosophy and wants to make sure that it is carried on. Without that, it isn't Star Trek, and he knows it. So far, it's been revealed that the new series will be set about 10 years before the original series. The main character will be a woman who is not a captain. Oh, okay. And the cast will include a gay character. I'm gonna try not to ramble on my views about this. It's part of the article. But if this clip goes on, I may cut from from the standard 4 to 5 clips to maybe 2 or 3. Part of what I loved about Voyager, which is my favorite series, is they put a woman in the captain's seat. That and the way the Intrepid classes warp themselves would, when they're at impulse, be saying like this, then they go to warp, up like this. As for the gay character, with me, because while I have no personal bias against gays, lesbians, those who bat for those teams, and I personally do not believe it is wholly right, so I have no judgment for those who participate in such acts, but I can't really support it either, so. Back to the article. The National Air and Space Museum is now displaying the 11-foot-long Starship Enterprise video model used in the opening sequence of the original series. So that's back from its touch-up. Wow. I'm so thrilled that the Smithsonian took the time and put a lot of money into restoring it, and found a lot of people who are very passionate about it. They arched over the right colors and the right temperature it needs to be stored at and how to maintain it, and Roddenberry said. I couldn't be happier that something like this, a fictional ship, is with these amazing pieces of history that have moved our species forward in terms of aeronautics and space exploration, he said enthusiastically. For those of you who know, it is American history. What Roddenberry did was groundbreaking. Checking the time index on the video, because since it's my tablet, I can see up in that corner or the record time index. For you, the time index is a bar on the bottom of the screen. Like the Enterprise model, he's convinced the universe his father created will live on. And Star Trek will never die. For however long this series lasts, whether series come after it or not, whatever hiatus happens, someone will always bring back Star Trek. The first episode of Star Trek Discovery will be broadcast on TV by CBS. The rest will be available for online streaming through CBS All Access. Okay. That's kind of a ripoff, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't have an all-access account through CBS, which I've heard you have to pay for. So they'll be able to see the first episode. I won't be able to see any others, which sucks. Well, on to the next article. Star Trek Beyond Blu-ray and DVD release date announced, and a deleted scene will be revealed. And the movie will debut on digital channels on October 4th. So let's get into the article. Well, this summer's blockbuster, Star Trek Beyond, will be released on Blu-ray and DVD on November 1st, with a release on digital platforms weeks earlier. On October 4th, it has been announced. The home video release will also include bonus features like deleted scenes and tributes to Leonard Nimoy, who died before filming began, and Anton Yelchin, and I might have just butchered his last name there, who passed away after shooting Wrapped. Okay. And there's a video on the article of one of the deleted scenes. You can see one of the deleted scenes in the video above and at USA Today. It shows off Captain Kirk, played by Chris Pine, and looking for a friend to grab a drink with. He doesn't have any luck. Meanwhile, IGN reports that there will be more than an hour of bonus content for Beyond's home video release, including things like featurettes with the cast and filmmakers. In addition to deleted scenes, there's also a gag reel. There will also be a 4K version, as well as a bundle that comes with all 3 reboot films. Wow, cool. Go to IGN to get all the details and see behind the scenes clip titled "The Demise of the Enterprise." That sounds very Search for Spock. Enterprise needing to be self-destructed in order to stop the Klingons. And I realize I just gave away a major plot point of that movie. Spoiler. Yeah, that sounds a lot like that. That has me a little concerned, but let's continue. Additionally, pre-ordering Beyond's Blu-ray edition from Amazon instantly unlocks an 8-minute sneak peek at the film's bonus content. Beyond was directed by Justin Lin, came out in July, and has made more than $330 million worldwide, according to Box Office Mojo. And that concludes this article. Well, rather short, but the endless Star Trek franchise ages in reverse. let's get into the article, which is now lagging when it wasn't doing that on camera. When I pulled it up and did the little thingy to move it along my phone. With Run the Series, the AV Club examines film franchises, studying how they change and evolve with each new installment. Star Trek is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, with a movie in theaters and a new TV show in production. All of this, alongside its seemingly permanent place in the pop culture landscape, makes it easy to forget that in its original form, Star Trek was cut short. Contemporary replays of the original series practically advertise it after the fact, describing the 5-year mission of the Starship Enterprise that wound up chronicled over only 3 seasons worth of adventures. Their iterations and spin-offs bolstered Star Trek's presence on television starting in the late 80s, but the real official franchise revival came in 1979 when the original cast got back together for Star Trek the Motion Picture. That's a slight reference to the animated series, which some Trek fans are in controversy over whether it's actual Trek or not. For me, it is, but that's, again, just me. Mainly because a lot of the stuff from that have been confirmed. Like something that you'll see later in the video, or probably figure it out from the just title. If I put it in the title. Kicking off a film series that would endure for decades, logging nearly as many entries as the James Bond series over the same period. For many Trek fans, the movies amount to bonus material, extra hours with characters they love, with a bigger scope than the TV versions could afford. Plenty of Trekkers feel, perhaps rightly, that Star Trek ultimately belongs on television, where it can explore a variety of stories, tones, and issues while developing its characters in more detail. Again, harking back to the animated series, while they could, because it was animation, do more on screen, with the effects and whatnot, one character introduced in the animated series is, at least from what I've seen of her, did not have much character development at all, let alone any development of what her species was or anything. And this is me trying not to rant and ramble on. But I am not most Trek fans. Guilty. By most measures, I'm not... Okay, this isn't me right here. But I'm not a true Trek fan at all. I've seen at least a handful of episodes of most of the TV shows, sorry Enterprise, and enjoyed them. And Voyager always seemed underappreciated. I hold with that opinion, but I have seen every episode of every series of Star Trek, like, ever. And while my memory's pretty dang good when it comes to stuff I'm interested in a lot of times it goes in here, and like that sock you could have swore you put in the washer and made it to the dryer, or can't find it when I need it to save my life. But I've never immersed myself in any of them. Again, that's the article writer, not me. I mostly know Star Trek through the movies. That's how my dad introduced me to Star Trek. Trek was actually the movies first. There's ones he has on DVD, well, now. Oh, but back then he only had Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Final Frontier, Undiscovered Country. Since then he's gotten Nemesis, Voyage Home, and I have Motion Picture. Then on the DVR for TV, I have First Contact. Oh, he has into all the reboots too. So, oh yeah, he has the reboots. And a Captain's Log special box set he bought of the various TV series. Anyways, on the DVR I have First Contact. I also have Generations. Through, and that's pretty much the extent of our collection so far. And despite the references, deeper continuity, and in-jokes that I don't always get on the first viewing, something I do, because I've seen, as I said, I've seen the TV shows, movies, and everything. And except for an animated series, I've got to search, see if I can find that and watch it, because I've seen the More Troubles episode out of animated series, and a clip of cut-in of different shots of a certain character, or that was animated series exclusive. Anyway, back to the article. The Star Trek films do stand reasonably well on their own. Kind of agree there, because that was my introduction to Trek. Well, that and some reruns of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. Both as general entertainment and as humane science fiction. And of course, they all do play with the history between the various Trek characters, particularly the motion picture, which had to reintroduce them all after a decade gone on compared to later movies. Those characters look relatively young in the 1979 film, but they're all significantly aged up from the original series, which started when most of the actors were already in their 30s. Yeah, this brings up a question I ask myself a lot. How many of the original series actors are still alive? I know we lost Nimoy. I know we've lost Nimoy. But I'm not sure how many others. Inevitably, then, much of the original Trek movie series trajectory has to do with the continued aging of its characters, following Kirk, Spock, Bones, and the rest through the ENNUI. You can tell these articles use a lot of words I don't use frequently every day. Of middle age and toward a retirement that is frequently implied but only really shown briefly in the opening of the bridge film Star Trek Generations, which, as I said, I have a copy of over on my video shelf. Oh, and in one of the previous clips, you probably heard me rewatching First Contact. Right. Hopefully this video don't get copyright flagged for that. As the Trek series continued past this point, it began to age in reverse. From the older first six movies to the spry middle age of the next generation films to finally the youth and energy of the J.J. Abrams produced revival, which is another source of Trek fan controversy. Which has been classified as a reboot, but in clever Star Trek fashion also remains in a sort of continuity with its predecessors. I do have plans for a bit of a theory video, either concerning this or the reasons in filmmaking wise is why there are so many inconsistencies between Trek shows and stuff. How Voyager's big thing was faster than light, no left or right, and I just did that in reverse. And yet in Next Generation we had a Nebula class ship flying along at warp make a turn. I also have a in-universe sort of explanation for that. Star Trek needed a soft reboot at all should not come as a surprise. It's despite their another word I don't pronounce daily. CONSCIOUSNESS regarding aging wisely and gracefully, the movies have repeatedly brought themselves to the brink of destruction. Much like the Enterprise, though they've actually blown up far fewer times than that venerable ship. Oh, God. William would probably point to the motion picture as an instant example, though it was a hit in its time because a major course correction for its 3 years later sequel and remains ill-regarded to this day. I like the motion picture, but there are points they could have done better, which you'll find in any movie. But the motion picture has plenty to recommend it beyond even its glorious adherence to the rule that movies picking up with male characters after a long absence must show at least one of them having grown an impressive hobo-style beard. Here belonging to ship doctor Leonard Bones McCoy. It is undoubtedly a slow movie. After a decade of longing to see their favorite characters back in action, Trek fans were treated to a film that takes 45 minutes just for the Starship Enterprise to get out of park. Long, loving shots of this process establish a series-long appreciation for the majestic big-screen sight of the Enterprise. But none of the movies, not even the iconography-obsessed Abrams revivals, can match the motion picture's obsession with the Enterprise's docking and launching. Later entries, perhaps seeking to rebel against their eldest installment, and became just as interested in destroying the various iterations of the ship. I think that's a reference, checking the time index, to Self-Destruct, USS Enterprise, NCC 1701. Relative destruction of USS Enterprise NCC 1701-A in both Final Frontier and Undiscovered Country, though it was more damaged than destroyed. Severe damage to USS Enterprise NCC 1701-B on her maiden voyage. Wish that tractor beam hadn't waited till Tuesday, right guys? Or those photon torpedoes. Destruction of USS Enterprise NCC 1701-C, the Ambassador class. The previous one was a Excelsior class. Keep that in mind. At the hands of the Romulans, which, granted, they had good reason to go back and do, because without that, we would be in a losing war with the Klingons. Spoiler. Or for those of you who haven't seen that episode, which I mislabeled as the series finale, that the series finale was all good things. The Yesterday's Enterprise was when the sea came forward to the 24th century. Well, later 24th century, I think. And had to be sent back to keep that self-destructive war from happening. Destruction of at least drive section, complete destruction of drive section of USS Enterprise NCC 1701-D, crash landing to where she'll never fly again of the saucer section of NCC 1701-D. And then relatively beaten up by both the Sona and Romulans, though it was just like one Romulan, and that wasn't even a Romulan, it was a clone of Captain Picard. Spoiler. Of USS Enterprise NCC 1701-E. And then, for those of you who've played Star Trek Online, destruction at the hands of the Borg of USS Enterprise NCC 1701-E. But I kind of get why they did that. They wanted to launch their own Enterprise. So, anyway, back to the article. Glad those first two were relatively short. All I'm going to say. Production of the motion picture was supposedly kick-started by the success of Star Wars. I've rambled enough for this clip, so yeah, I'm going to cut at the amount of articles we use short, or because what I have next, or well, planned for the end of this episode of ZI News requires a lot of attention. But if anything, the film heads back in the opposite direction, towards the slow-paced trippiness of 2001: A Space Odyssey. A movie I haven't seen but I've heard about. I don't know. The crew, Captain now Admiral Kirk, played by William Shatner, Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy, God rest his soul, Bones, DeForest Kelly, Scotty James Doohan, Uhura, Michelle Nichols, who I can confidently say is still alive, Sulu, played by George Takei. I might have just butchered that. And Chekhov, played by Walter Koenig. Another name I may have just butchered. And I'm can confidently say that actor's still alive too. Reunites to investigate a mysterious, threatening energy cloud, eventually grappling with notions of consciousness, God, and artificial life. In telling a sci-fi heavy action light story that doesn't fully turn on the character's advancing age, the motion picture also feels like something of a last hurrah for the original Trek form. Later, Star Trek adventures would be more apt to recover old ground while musing on the character's mortality. The motion picture accelerated that process by presenting a thoughtful, painterly, expensive Robert Wise directed film whose reception demanded a less costly solution to future films. Luckily for fans, the solution was Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, one of the best regarded sci-fi sequels of all time. I am pretty much the undisputed champion of Star Trek movies. Making a sequel of an episode of the TV series in a way that makes it perfectly accessible for neophytes like myself. Again, that's the article writer. Khan is somewhat less stylish than the motion picture, but it's a lot more exciting with a great villain in Ricardo Montalban's Khan and a strong emotional core based on the friendship between William Shatner's Kirk and Leonard Nimoy's stoic, half-Vulcan, half-human Spock. Though writer-director Nicholas Meyer stepped up after Khan and Nimoy tried his hand at directing, in the second film put the series on a streak. The second, third, and fourth movies are often packaged together as a trilogy, and it makes sense. They can run together more or less continuously. They also repeat certain themes and phrases. Spock shall always be Kirk's friend, and self-sacrifice, needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few. For the one. Reference. Enough to feel a little repetitive, they're probably exasperated by the way future Star Trek installments tended to rehash or rephrase these ideas. In some ways, then, the triumph of Khan may have done the series more harm than good. Multiple later entries would sabotage themselves, attempting to chase the emotional high of Spock sacrificing himself for his friends. Star Trek Nemesis hastily throws the Next Generation's android Data into the sacrificial role. On that for me as well. While Star Trek Into Darkness can't resist the urge to remake and remix the Kirk Spock Khan dynamic, undermining its potential to use an alternate timeline Khan to tell a different story. But before Khan solidified itself as the be-all, end-all of the Trek movie universe, Meyer, Nimoy, and the rest of the filmmakers fashioned a decent trilogy that manages to play up the slow march of time even as it hurtles forward at a decent pace. Sometimes the ideas aren't as well realized as they could be. In Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, the revival of the titular half-Vulcan via the Genesis planet has a great sci-fi hook. Both the planet and Spock's body are renewed, then rush through their life cycles at an accelerated speed. This takes Spock from childhood to 1984 Larry Nimoy age over the course of the film as the planet deteriorates around him. But it plays more as a secondary subplot than the thematically rich centerpiece it might have been. Still, these moments resonate, as do the lighter scenes in the fourth installment, The Voyage Home, wherein everyone travels back in time to then contemporary 1986 San Francisco. Despite a story heavy on both antics and shenanigans, Nimoy treats his fellow cast members with dignity behind the camera. This is especially impressive given the Starfleet costumes for the first 6 films, distressingly many of which bear some kind of resemblance to sweater vest and or terry cloth robes. I will give the article writer that they do, while looking damn good, do occasionally look like a sweater vest or a set of like robes, as if they're trying to rip off Star Wars and the Jedi and all that. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, directed by Shatner himself, explains a lot. It really does. Throws the balance between capabilities and encumbrances way out of whack. As such, the movie is most interesting for the sight of Shatner raging at the dying of the light careening before Avuncula and the aggressive, If there's any continuity to these oscillations, it's that Shatner casts himself as a beacon of masculinity, capable of leaving his more slapstick, prone shipmates behind. Hence, Kirk fighting his way through a major shootout in the same movie where guy hits his head on a doorway and knocks himself out. Spoiler. Watching Kirk, Spock, and Bones on a vacation together should be a fan's delight, but there's a hokey softness to scenes like the one where the central trio attempts to sing "Row, row, row your boat" around the campfire. Again, another spoiler. It's a shame because Final Frontier is the film that most closely resembles the underrated motion picture, albeit in a feebler, cash-poor incarnation, in telling a story about the Enterprise hijacked by Spock's half-brother Sybok, spoiler, on a quest to find God. It places Shatner in a fight against the aging of the franchise as well as himself. To his credit, he sometimes does so nobly, even as he indulges his own worst instincts as an actor. Say this for one of the worst Star Trek movies, is it has an evocative, cold opening introducing Sybok on the desert planet Nimbus 3, and some cool sights at a poor man's Mos Eisley cantina. Yeah, definitely gonna have to just do 3 articles and the semi-discussion I want at the end. Technically speaking, Shatner isn't a bad director, although some of his compositions are weirdly underlit. Especially early on, something Final Frontier shares with the recent Star Trek Beyond, but the movie's slashed budget is visible with the weakest special effects of any Trek movie. Case in point, the inconsistency of the elevator turbo lift shaft ride on Spock's jet boots. It's another spoiler for you guys. It's rare that a major franchise entry looks like it's literally falling apart on screen as it goes along. Funny thing is, they kind of played that up with the Enterprise A having all kinds of malfunctions. By the time the series picked back up with Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, in 1991? Huh. No wonder some fans blame that movie for being what killed Roddenberry. But there was no further delaying or sidestepping the inevitable. Everyone in the original cast was much older, verging on elderly, and the movie sets most of the original crew a few months away from retirement and from duty on the Enterprise, though Sulu now captains his own ship. If the characters have lived long enough to see the dawn of a new era where peace with the Klingons may be achievable. Well, but when the Enterprise is framed for the assassination of a Klingon leader that may derail the peace talks, spoiler, major spoiler, Kirk and Bones are thrown into a mining prison while Spock leads sort of a locked room mystery on the ship, trying to figure out the true culprit. Bringing Meyer back into the fold, the undiscovered country restores the series' graceful balance between acknowledging the character's past crime lot in life and sending them on cool adventures anyway. It's a lovely send-off for the original cast members that's nonetheless not all that consumed with the task. This is a Star Trek story first and a swan song second. The next phase of the series would jump further into the future while also jumping back to the onset of middle age. The cast of the Next Generation didn't have to wait a decade before reviving their characters on film. Star Trek Generations, a semi-transitional but mostly next-gen film, premiered the fall after the series aired its final episode in syndication. But Next Generation also aired for 7 seasons, to the original's 3. So it probably wouldn't be accurate to describe the 4 movie series that followed as featuring these characters in peak physical or creative condition. Generations acknowledges as much by having Captain Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, grapple with his mortality, which is where his life intersects with Captain Kirk. Like the first Enterprise crew, Picard is aware that there are fewer days ahead than there are behind, and he catches a glimpse at a pacifying alternate life when he enters the Nexus, a sort of heaven or purgatory where Captain Kirk has been hanging out for nearly a century, riding horses, chopping wood, and presumably practicing his part of row, row, row your boat. The two team up to stop a bad guy whose own desire to return to the Nexus may destroy anything in his path. This is where Generations derives its modest emotional kick, eventually squandered by an overabundance of plot mechanics and Trek jargon, as well as the curious underpopulation that would later characterize the final Next Generation film, Star Trek Nemesis. At least half of the Star Trek movies have been dismissed as playing like bigger budget, overlong TV episodes. Generations is the one where that criticism actually applies, with subplots that feel like B stories and an underwhelming climax that involves Picard, Kirk, and Soren, played by Malcolm McDowell, while running around on the side of a mountain. Both of the superior Next Generation entries, First Contact and Insurrection, and continue to deal with the passage of time under the helm of Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker, carrying on the rich tradition of Trek actors taking charge of the films. First Contact sends the Enterprise back in time to 2063 to stop the collective Borg from derailing Earth's first contact with the Vulcans. And spoiler, it's far sleeker and more propulsive than Generations, and probably the best balanced of the quartet, in that most of the cast members get something cool to do, and no one has to watch Riker take a bubble bath or have sad part is I watched First Contact enough times that I could practically, in my sleep, quote the whole movie. Yeah, I probably need a life. Not gonna get one. Insurrection is in turn lighter and less muscular than First Contact, and has been accordingly dismissed as such. But in a lot of ways, it's classic Star Trek, at least as the older movies had defined it, returning to the question of the needs of the few versus the needs of the many, and focusing again on the aging and de-aging process. Slight spoiler of the plot of that movie. This time more explicitly. Picard and Company, spoilers ahead, major spoilers, encounter a planet that functions as a gigantic fountain of youth and defend it from Shea Federation-backed interference while reverting to their younger selves. This means witnessing Worf's rough Klingon puberty, as well as the aforementioned Riker Troy bubble bath. But on the whole, Insurrection is a zippy, standalone adventure. Some of the scenes from Insurrection are funny. I will give them that. Oh, look. They got pictures from First Contact and Insurrection. It's also charmingly dorky with a touch of freaky space western action. And the attempts by Nemesis to fashion a more traditional action-adventure movie show why those attributes are so valuable. Today, the way Nemesis downplays its OXRWN cast, supposedly a lot of character moments were cut out, and rushes to a big series altering death recalls not the intended Wrath of Khan, but botched comics adaptations like X-Men The Last Stand and Batman vs. Superman. And there's still enough Star Trek charm to keep Nemesis from a total disaster, and it's fascinating to see a very young Tom Hardy attempting to play a young clone of Picard. Yeah, major spoilers. But the movie insists far too vehemently on making the android Data into its version of Spock. In their movies, Spock and Kirk feel like equals. Picard's fatherly relationship to Data sometimes makes him come off more like a sitcom kid or some kind of robot reverse Poochie. Anyone remember those? Back when they were popular? God. Giving screen time today and blowing up the Enterprise are two of the lamest moves in the Next Generation movie repertoire. Again, that's the article writer. All depending on your view. You know, everyone has their own opinion, which you are entitled to by the creator of the almighty creator God I believe in, okay? Who does not need a starship, by the way. Okay, I will give Shatner that line. And good plot point. But we'll discuss that further or later in the video because, yeah, this is running long. This clip's running about the length of a standard episode out of these. After Next Generation whimpered away, a Star Trek eventually returned to its youngest incarnation yet. In contrast with their older siblings, there are plenty of reasons to think of the newest movies utilizing an alternate early history officially called the Kelvin timeline as a Fox optimism produced with sheer cynicism. Initial director J.J. Abrams admitted early on that he was more of a Star Wars fan growing up, and pumped up his bigger budget Star Trek efforts with special effects, set pieces, and yes, lens flares. The series within the series also indulges in trendy prequel making, casting younger, sexier stand-ins for Kirk, Spock, Bones, played by Chris Pine, Zachary Quintino, and Carl Urban, respectively, and the rest, and sometimes seems more interested in exploring Kirk's standard daddy issues in place of ideas and allegories. Which I'm thinking, according to statements made by his character in the first film, did not happen in the prime timeline, according to Spock, Leonard Nimoy. But But the original cast Trek movies aren't always enormously thought-provoking. They focus more on the characters and the relationships, and the headier sci-fi installments, the first and fifth, are not particularly well liked in a sense. The Kelvin Trek movies continue the mission of the original films, if not necessarily the original TV series. How? They're supposed to come before that? And if just before? Whatever. They're not necessarily. Well, they are also a pleasure to look at with bright colors and endless moving camera, and endlessly moving camera that seems engineered to capture pulpy hero shots and those Abrams lens flares. Those latter are a classic case of cinematic technique catching like simply because a bunch of people found out what it's called. It's a perfect visual representation of the series' shining optimism, Star Trek Beyond, and generally delightful newest entry in the series could have used a few more or to brighten up some of its underlit moments. Well, this article's apparently not over-spoilering that movie. The Abrams-produced films, in particular, offer something no previous Trek movie could: the sight of an Enterprise crew in their youth by virtue of its seven-person primary cast. As Star Trek movies will probably always be accused of giving some character or another nothing to do. But even if its actors sometimes get their short shrift, Uhura, played by Zoe Saldana, and Sky, played by Simon Pegg, both have much more prominent roles in the new films than they do in most of the older ones. The new movies have also introduced memorable supporting aliens who work beyond sight gags, including Sky's diminutive sidekick, Keenser, played by Deep Roy. Not gonna comment. And beyond alien ally, Jayla, played by Sophia Botella, who so enjoys the beats and shouting of late 20th century music. All in all, the first Abrams Star Trek in particular is one of the best recent pop culture origin stories. These are one of the most purely entertaining Trek movies, showing off Abrams' rightfully vaunted facility with casting. This includes the masterful extended opening sequence showing the death of Captain Kirk's father, played by Chris Hemsworth. Again, something I don't think happened in the prime timeline until later on down the line. With Abrams' signature mix of propulsion, humor, and emotion. As a filmmaker, Abrams tends to try skipping to the good parts whenever possible. A sensation-driven approach that works beautifully in his first Trek movie, particularly the headlong plunge of its opening setup. For better or worse, an earlier Star Trek movie probably would have spent a solid 25 minutes. It's painstakingly walking through the time travel element that sets Star Trek 09 into motion. In 3 more ships for some reason. Sounds original, Trek. The bad side of Abrams' ADD tendencies emerges toward the end of Star Trek Into Darkness, a movie that rockets along enjoyably until Abrams and his screenwriters decide they simply cannot let pass the opportunity to remake Wrath of Khan at double speed. It's especially frustrating because until that point the movie works pretty well, with a great opening, exciting action sequence. Is some terrorism-related parallels to our world, which Trek will always have. Pleasing levels of humor, and a seemingly new take on Khan, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, or Batch, however the frack you pronounce that. Rather than moving forward, though, Abrams chooses to circle back to signature moments from Wrath, something that kind of makes sense looking at Into Darkness as a continuation of a time travel story, but can't satisfy audiences who need at least a little bit of the future in Star Trek, rather than endless revisiting of the past. That's a crucial distinction in the best Star Trek movies. Many of them deal with characters ever advancing ages, but they tend to look at this process in terms of the future rather than the past. Trek movies are set hundreds of years past our own purview, yet they're characters too who are looking toward the future. Wherever it may hold, that's true of the recent Star Trek Beyond, which finds Pines Kirk feeling restless midway through the Enterprise's 5-year mission. In modern prequel fashion, the series spends 2 full entries preparing the crew's start to this 5-year mission, and then skips to the middle of it. Kirk is about to pass the age his father was when he died, and along with Spock, he's reconsidering his future with Starfleet. The adventure that follows might seem minor by modern blockbuster standards, but like Insurrection, there are pleasures in its standalone storytelling. And if it is now given that the Enterprise will be destroyed at least once per sub-series, Beyond offers one of the better sequences on that front. As the ship is torn, dang it, spoilers, major spoilers, though we saw this in the trailers, so. As the ship is torn asunder by an enormous fleet of small bee-like ships. After the homage-obsessed darkness, the series feels fresh and forward-looking again, and the new characters still a little ways off from middle-aged Stodgines. Sadly, any future adventures won't include the wonderful Anton Yelchin, who died after completing work on Beyond. At 50, Star Trek itself is well into its middle age and about to embark on a new TV series mission, but the film series shouldn't be scared off by its own advancing years. For the most part, it provides plenty of tips on how to age gracefully. Okay, they've got a ranking of all the films up to current, with Generations being on the bottom of the list, if they're counting up, which from the looks of this, they are. And that concludes this article. I may just end the video here. So, be warned, the next clip might just be the outro. Okay, battery's getting kinda low on the tablet, but I gotta say, do this part. One thing I just recently found out about Star Trek is a humanoid race. I know Star Trek Online labels them as felinid, but they are on official Trek forums and stuff identified as humanoid. Just so you know. Well, anyway, a humanoid race that is a member of the United Federation of Planets. It has had little to no screen time development of their species. The species name, I've been pronouncing it Caitians. It's spelled Caitians. Anyways, their species got their first debut in the Star Trek animated series, which, like I said, is a point of controversy for many a fan. And yet, the character they had that was a member of this species and was on the bridge of the Enterprise as a kind of secondary communications officer, aside from Uhura, was shown to, at least from clips I've seen, not have any real character development. And I mean, the most I saw on screen of her character development in the clips is her talking, the way it sounds like a purr and such. Makes her sound a bit like a freaking cat. Which is what this species tends to look like, hence why they're mislabeled old felinid by STO. But yeah, I'd like to see some more character development for this race. I mean, granted, we did get 2 background characters who are confirmed to be of this race in Voyage Home. but we still don't know much about them. And, their biology, their eating habits, it's anything. The most we can determine and harkens to their cat-like form, which, given the ears, we can determine they are fairly good at hearing. But yeah, I'd like to see more. Or if you're watching this, Paramount, CBS, that's something I'd like you to try to work into the new series. Even though I probably won't be able to see it, is more development for this species so we know more about them. Because fans are hungry for more. Or it's a playable character race in Star Trek Online. I mean, granted, you have to pay $500,000 freaking whatevers to play them. But according to something I've heard, they're not receiving any real development as a race there either, because those fans aren't doing anything with them, and mainly because they don't know anything about them. It's a feedback loop that has to end. We don't know anything about them, and we need more information. Please! Well, that concludes this video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you on the battlefield. And in true honor of our Star Trek special, let me try to get both my face and hand in the camera. Live long and prosper.